Hey, and welcome to What Now with Anna and Eric. I'm Anna. This
I'm
is
Eric.
Eric. And we have been reading the Bible chronologically through in a year. We are on day, oh, I closed it. Maybe I can't tell you what day we're on. At least
200-ish.
230 something.
Let's
I'm pretty
see.
sure.
Well, at the recording of this, so what we're going through is technically
238.
38.
Mm-hmm. Which we hit on several books this time. We were in Jeremiah, we were in Second Kings, we were in Second Chronicles, which lives on for forever. We were in Ezekiel. We even hit on like the first chapter of
We dipped our toe in Lamentations.
Yes, the lament.
Yes.
So we were all over the place. You know, something that I found. Okay, wait, I was just going to jump right into it.
Oh, man. All right.
What is your 3-word summary of this week, Eric?
So at least this is where, and all right, theologically, let's just put a pause on all the theological people out there. But here is my 3-word summary is God's had it.
God's had it.
I think
Wait, God's had it. So is it God? Well, marker S. So yeah. You're counting that as 2 words. Oh no, God's had it. I don't know how to count.
That's 3 words.
Okay.
But don't worry, because soon we're going to see that God's got it. So don't worry.
That is a true statement.
I think
a very true statement.
I think we see a little bit of a boiling point here with what God's saying.
Yeah.
Seeing a boiling point at this moment.
Mine is I am Lord. That was a recurring theme throughout. So it's cool.
Yeah, so I think we're on the same page with that one, because I think we get to see that, yeah, he is basically saying, don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I'm capable of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we went through all of these books, and a lot of them were prophecy. Some of them were like a breaking in to tell us like current events, what was going on. Something that I did find slightly interesting was, well, we were talking about, you know, when we were in Kings and Chronicles, we kept getting repeats of the same story, you know, for the book. Yeah. And in this one, Ezekiel and Jeremiah were giving us perspectives on the same incident. But then I started to notice Jeremiah was giving 2 different perspectives on the same incident. And I was like, wait a second, Jeremiah's telling the same story twice. Same guy, same book, just like in different parts of Jeremiah. And I was like, oh man,
we're in crazy times right now. As we go through this, that's what I realized in this part. Like, we are in craziness. That's where we're at right now. Is something big's about to happen, but we are in the crazy part before it.
Yeah, it is. It's so intense. Jeremiah is repeating himself. Yeah. Or rather, he's so used to repeating himself, of saying, guys, check yourselves. Yeah. He just starts repeating everything.
Well, and then we got Ezekiel, who's gone from absolute crazy like things that he had to do to now just talking about basically God's wrath, and like he's like,
through these really elaborate metaphors.
Yeah. And so we've got all of that coming to a head. And I just think, like I said, this coming through this whole process, like I don't know why I didn't expect this. Maybe because I've never read the Bible this way chronologically, but you can just feel, like, I feel it getting to the point where Jesus is the only option. Like, and I don't know, once again, this is different walks of life, but in the parenthood side of things, like, this is, oh, I asked you nicely. Oh, I asked you nicely. Oh, I asked you nicely again. Oh, I asked you a little more sternly. Oh, now I'm enraged and I don't know what else to do. And then silent for a little bit, and then Jesus. So you can just see it kind of getting to that point where God's running out of options. And I don't want to say, I always feel weird saying that, because he's God, and I don't think God ever runs out of options. But
Well,
you
I
can,
think it would be clear to say we are running out of options.
yeah, yeah,
Humankind is running out of options. It's not
yeah,
God.
yeah,
Well, in the sense like he's going to the ultimate
yeah,
option in order to save us. But like humankind at this point is getting to a stage where the sin quotient is so rampant. God has to make
yeah,
all of these changes on our behalf,
yeah.
basically, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and that's why I hate saying it. But that's how my brain works. It's like, oh, God's got no other choice. I'm sure God has lots of choices, and
But they don't look good for us.
I'm sure the Jesus option was the one thing that played out well for us, because I don't think any of the other options would. But that shows how much God cares about it, because as we went through this, you kept seeing, okay, people screwed it up. Okay, people turn back. People screw it up. People turn back. Well, now you're seeing it where people are just so far gone that turning back doesn't even look like it's on the table right now. Like, I can almost feel for Ezekiel and Jeremiah as they're saying this, and it just seems like they're just saying it, and people are just, nobody wants to hear it. And
Yeah.
that's it kind of, I don't know if, once again, the Bible being the living word and we read it in ways for a reason, but that's, if you look at Christians right now, it's like this could be the world we're living in. Like, how many people do you hear, well, I don't know if I can speak up because there's all this other stuff going on. And it's like, you need to have a voice. Like, God's still there, and even in the craziness and the chaos, are we doing our part to speak up and hear from God, and then speak on his behalf to people who need to hear it?
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just really hitting me that it's this is very familiar, this seems very familiar in the world we're living in today and what's going on in this situation.
Hmm. There was a lot of good material in here. I felt like I'm looking for like a specific verse that I thought that I wrote down, but apparently I imagined that I wrote it down. But it was basically this time where God is going on one of his like, you need to change your ways. You need to change your ways. And at one point, he closes out one of his, what I want to say, like his monologue, and he kept repeating, and I was very struck by this. And he's like, kept saying, "I don't want you to die." Like, that's what he literally says. He says, "I don't want you to die. Let me make this clear to you, because you keep saying, man, God is not for us and he's not protecting us." And God is saying, "You are misunderstanding me. I don't want you to die."
Yeah.
Like, which I thought was one of the clearest statements in the section
Yeah.
of the Bible.
Well, and I think Ezekiel 18, I think this might be where I highlighted it, and this might be where you're talking about, but Ezekiel 18, the end of it, it closes out and it says, "Therefore, you Israelites, I will judge each of you according to your own ways, declares the sovereign Lord. Repent, turn away from all your offenses, then sin will not be your downfall. Rid yourself of all the offenses you have committed, and get a new heart and a new spirit. Why will you die, people of Israel? For I take no pleasure in the death of anyone, declares the sovereign Lord. Repent and live." Like, he's begging, like he is begging them.
Yes.
That's where it struck me, is getting into that. Like, this is God just saying, listen, here is, you know who I am, you know what I'm capable of, you know what I can do. I don't want to do it. I want you to have this best life. You just have to turn away from what you're doing and turn to me. And
Yeah.
once again, nobody, we're not listening. Nobody's listening. So yeah, you can just feel it bubble over. But yeah, it's God pleading with a people that he doesn't have to plead to. Like, that's incredible to me, is that he is trying so hard and he doesn't have to. Like, he could just very easily be God and take care of all of this, and he doesn't. Like he's like, listen, I want to give you chances.
Yeah.
I want you to fix it for yourself. This free will thing, I really want you to keep that in place.
Wanted to work it in your favor.
Yes.
It's not right now, but that's what we're doing. I felt like, which I thought this was kind of funny. It was the first day. I felt like it really set up the week's reading. It's Ezekiel 19:14, and it's talking about like the story of all of these. It's a metaphor. All these bad things have been happening, and then it ends with, "This is a funeral song, and it will be used in a funeral." And I was like, "Oh no, it's going downhill."
Yeah.
I was like, that very much set up what was happening. It was very funny. You were talking about Ezekiel, and Ezekiel moved from like the first half looks very different than the second half. The second half is very much metaphor. And I was laughing because at one point he says at the end of one of his metaphors, "God, I'm going out and telling him nobody understands what I'm talking about." I was like, I feel like that sometimes. It was just funny.
Yeah, I think Ezekiel's personality comes through as we read this. Like you said, we talked about it last week with kind of his personality of being kind of a wise, but yeah, in this, I'm going out to tell them this, and they're not listening. Like he's almost coming back and tattling on the people as he goes out and tells them that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. What else do you got? Because I'm really excited. I've got some, but mine's kind of at the end of the reading on Tuesday. So
okay, so this is not directly related. Well, it is. So God does bring up several times about one of the sins that he's most disgusted with is that they're sacrificing their children to idols. And like he literally says at one point, he's like, "I did not come up with this. It would never even occur to me to make this a law that you would sacrifice your children to me." Like that is how far away from agreeing with this I am. And I was watching plug to Disney Plus.
Oh, there you go.
Watching Disney Plus. And
Disney
I was watching
this. We would be good.
Yeah.
I'll wear Mickey Mouse ears. I'm good.
There you go. We were watching this documentary about it was like Lost Temple of the Inca, is what it was. And it was like this guy exploring this lake, and we're like, sure. It ended up, to be blunt, was not my favorite documentary that I watched. But at one point, they climb a mountain next to this lake. And this guy is talking about how several decades before, an archaeologist climbed this mountain, and they literally found, and if you have children listening right now,
earmuffs.
Maybe use earmuffs.
1. All right, go for it.
They found frozen bodies of small children on this mountain, where the Incas took these kids up on a mountain, they drugged them, and then they buried them alive. And because it was so high up on the mountain, they were completely frozen, and they looked exactly like, it looked like they were just a small child with their eyes closed. Like that's how well preserved they were. And it's showing these pictures of this archaeologist taking pictures with these frozen dead children. And like all the archaeologists were excited because they had discovered this lost Inca like worship site. And I was watching it, and I was remembering this. Like God talking about you sacrifice your kids. And I was like, I'm so disturbed by this documentary and how excited these people are to have found this archaeological. And I just think, holy crap, like what does that say about us?
Yeah. like when you go just full science on it and how excited you are that you found something, you take the morality out of it. And like you celebrate it in a way. I don't know. But yeah, we get that thing. Like it's with that. It's how many times did he talk about like you're worshiping pieces of wood and metal, and like it's that like hand to the forehead. What are you doing? Moments like
why?
Like it's just it's so great that God is speaking through that, and he's just putting out there. He's like, are you like use common sense? Like here's where you're at, and what are you doing? Like I would never tell you to do any of that. But Yeah,
And I think what most shook me about it was, you know, we read a lot of this Old Testament stuff and we just think these people are so stupid. Like,
mhm,
like we would never worship a block of wood.
but yeah, I just yeah,
Wouldn't we though?
yeah, where I mean, that's the thing. Where your kids' sports lie in your priorities? Where does money? Where does material things? Where does reputation or friend like where does that stuff rate in your priorities? And yeah, and put that and then put equals block of wood. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much like
Yeah.
that's those are equal to those pieces of wood or those pieces of silver, whatever idols they made in here. And you can just plug in those things that pull you away from your relationship with God, pulls you away from your Christian community, pulls you away from whatever you're doing. Put it in there, and it's the same thing. You know,
Yeah. And I
and
think it really does come down to what you're saying about it of, you know, maybe you're looking at your life and you're like, I'm not sacrificing my children. Well, hopefully you're not.
yeah,
um, but, you know, the block of wood wasn't the problem. You know, the block of wood wasn't doing anything.
yeah,
It's what they committed to it and what they gave to it. And if we take a look at our own lives and we prioritize and take a look, what are we giving our lives to? What are we giving our time to? What are we giving our devotion to? And to some extent, what are we giving our kids to? You
well,
know, like when you look at culture and the allowances that culture has made for moral deterioration, are you like, you know what? It's just the way that it is.
yeah, and
Well,
that's
are you giving your kids to that?
well, and that's the thing. It's like how many. I mean, I think we're at the point where we're at generations where we're at a point where there are going to be kids and students who are not exposed to church, not exposed to the Bible, not exposed to God in any way because parents are just have been so wrapped up for so long that it's not a habit for them. So now it's not even going to be something that's going to be introduced into their children's lives. So yeah, you might not physically be sacrificing your children, but are you really giving them a chance to develop a relationship with God? Or are you just hoping that somebody comes along and introduces God to them and they latch onto it? And if that doesn't happen, then where do they go? And that freaks me out because I think you look at, and I'm going to put my student ministry hat on for a second, is you look at all of these articles talking about overdoses and depression and anxiety are at these all-time highs for youth and for students. And I think the engagement of students with God is at an all-time low, and it's like, how can they navigate this, and how do they navigate this part of their life without having the hope of Jesus, without having that hope of those promises that God gives you? I think that plays a huge factor into it because they're going to fill their lives with something and they're going to find validation or find their identity in something. And if God's not even on the table as an option, then it's scary to think what they're going to identify with.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It like I said, this whole part right here, this chaos and this craziness is hitting very close to home for me when I look at our world and I look at the world that this is being written to.
Yeah.
So
But Jesus is coming.
truth.
And
we're
we
so
do
close.
have the benefit of uh historically or literally being on this side of Jesus
Yeah.
where these people really did not have him yet.
No.
So
They don't even know that's coming. So
and
we
I do think that this points to you know, my 3-word summary was I am Lord.
Mhm.
And something that came up over and over and over and over and over again throughout this week was God kept saying these things. And he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And the reason why is, for example, Ezekiel 25:11. In the same way, I will bring my judgment down on the Moabites. Then they will know that I am the Lord. And so, something to think about, even during these times, that we can be praying about, and we can be spreading the message that even now, and especially in times of darkness, God is the Lord, and that He will bring people back to Him. I mean, this is what
Yeah.
this is all about. Keeps
Well,
bringing people back.
and that's and you don't see, I mean, there's still, God still has a voice here, and it might seem like nobody's listening, but God's still speaking through a few prophets here, and he's trying to speak into the world. And it might seem like you're in a situation where you don't have a voice, but know that you're called to speak out. When you feel that prompting, when you feel the Spirit moving in that, you need to speak out, even if it feels like nobody's listening, even if it feels like you're just speaking it out there. Continue to speak truth into the lives of people. Continue. You get to speak about the good news. Like these prophets didn't even get to speak about the good news of Jesus. They got to foreshadow it and hint about it, but they didn't. You get to speak about the good news of Jesus, which is
True.
even, it's just awesome to speak about. So yeah, to be able to not go silent and be able to speak up is huge. And that's what you can look at, the chaos of the world that Ezekiel and Jeremiah are speaking into, and you can see that nobody's listening. And you might feel that way, but they keep talking, they keep speaking, because God's speaking to them, so they speak to the world. And I think that's what we need to make sure we do, is we need to continue to spread that message, and we need to continue to connect people with Jesus.
Truth.
Truth.
Is that your next step?
There you go. There, look at that. Awesome. You know what? Segues. It's all about segues.
It is.
Transitions. But yeah, my next step, talk to somebody about Jesus. And even if they're not listening, talk to them again. Keep talking to them.
So I had a different next step.
All right.
I don't usually come in with them, but I came in with this one, but now I'm going to change it. After our discussion. I want my next step to be, I would like to challenge everyone who is listening to this to pray about the current circumstances of the world. And when I say that, I mean, like, pray that it will become clear during this time that God is Lord. And it will become clear to people that they need Him as their Lord. And just that message will spread, because kind of like what we were talking about, the people at this time, what they needed was what everybody needs is Jesus.
Yeah.
We all need Jesus, especially in the darkness. As you know, we started Lamentations, which was this lament about how sad everything was. And on the edge of that, on the edge of the horizon, Jesus was about to come into their lives, and Jesus can come into the lives of everyone who's in the world right now. So my next step is to challenge you to pray about the world, the state of the world.
That's a good one. See, you got two really good. Now, director's cut. You can cut this out. What was the one you had written down coming into this?
It was very practical. It was about when you come across a verse that you are questioning. It was kind of about, how do you go about discovering the meaning and understanding verses that you don't really get, or kind of disturb you, I guess is what I would say.
Well, there you go.
Which is also good. Here, I can give you a short summary.
Get it.
This is what it was.
Bonus step.
When you come across a verse where you're like, I don't understand this, and how does this make God a good guy? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Number one, I always ask myself, what about God's character should I be applying to my understanding of this verse? Because sometimes we come across a verse and we're like, that seems really shady, or like, I don't get that. Then the first thing I ask myself is, what do I know about God's character? And if God is who He is, what does it say about this verse? The second thing is I will look up sometimes on the internet a lot of different sources because the internet is not always reliable. And I will look up like commentaries and things that can help explain it to me. The third thing is I will ask somebody I trust and who has wisdom. Sometimes Eric. I'll ask Eric. And then sometimes I just have to say, I don't know, but I trust that God is God and that he is love. And that's good enough for me. And then the last thing was pray. So it kind of all comes back to that.
There you go.
Pray about it. Like if you don't get a verse and you still, after all of that, don't understand, is God a good God or not? Say, pray to God and be like, God, help me to understand the meaning of this. And if I don't know the meaning of this, help me to believe that you are good and you are faithful. And that is what I have to trust in.
Yeah. And really, like I said, when I first dove into the Bible, I was taught that it is the living word. It is constantly moving in your life. And maybe you go through all those steps and maybe just that verse isn't in your plan right now. Like you take all the notes, you talk to everybody and still pray and say, God, I don't know where this fits in. I don't know this, but you know what? When it's your time, let me know that.
Let me in on the info.
Yeah, let me in on that. But that's why it's so important to take time to journal, take notes, write in the margins of your Bible, because at some point you're going to stumble back across that at the time that you were supposed to. And you're going to be like, whoa, I can't believe that. I see that now. And it's just God revealing it to you at the right time. So yeah, I think ending out with that prayer at that last point of saying, listen, I've went through this. And maybe it just isn't the time for me to really dive into this one. I'm going to move on, but feel free to work that back in when you want to.
Yeah.
So I like that. But
cool.
Look at that. Prayer.
This was a good week. It's good. I mean, it was bad, but it was good.
I just
it was bad for the Israelites.
I have found this new momentum with this because, like I said, even just looking at the tabs that are coming up, I see Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John right there. Like it's right in my face. So I know
we're so close.
Yeah. So we're getting there. But yeah, I think, like I said, there's this new excitement to it right now that I think we're in it, but now it's building to what we know is coming. So get ready. Buckle up.
Jesus.
Second Kings. Oh wait, no.
No, Jesus. So thank you for listening to What Now with Ann and Eric. We are really excited to talk about the Bible. So we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Craziness. We can't wait.
Yeah.
The highlight. See ya.